Behavioural economics on a post-it number 13. In the two previous short videos on post-it 11 and post-it 12, I talked about regret theory and disappointment theory. They're both heavily associated, as I said, with the British economists, behavioural economists, Robert Sugden and Graham Loomes. Others, I think, work towards the development of those theories as well, almost independently of Loomes and Sugden, but I always associate those theories mostly with those two economists. Now, in this post-it, I want to very, very briefly reiterate the differences between disappointment theory and regret theory, just to make that clear. You know what the distinction is between those two theories. Now, disappointment theory that I talked about in the previous post-it, that is focused upon psychological reactions, I suppose, emotional reactions when people compare different outcomes that can arise from the same option. So, you might have several different outcomes within the same option, and people are sort of comparing what could happen and the emotional reactions to whether you could get you might have got something better, you might get something worse, etc. Regret theory is focused upon these are sort of emotional reactions when people are comparing outcomes across different options. So not within the same option, but they're comparing outcomes, the possibilities of what could happen across different options. Right? So I just want to try to illustrate this again with a very simple hypothetical example that many of you may be familiar with in terms of, may be familiar with this type of context. So you're thinking about ordering a pizza, I've said here, from Pizza Parlour A, right? And in the past, you've ordered from Pizza Parlour A before, and you've come to the conclusion that pizzas are usually good from there, but occasionally they are terrible. Right? So your basic expected value, really, I suppose, from ordering a pizza from this pizza parlour, is that your basic expectation is that your pizza is probably going to be good. Occasionally it's terrible, but generally it's usually good. So you kind of expect it to be good, all right? So then you're thinking about, well, what are my experiences? Occasionally they are terrible, and if it did turn out to be terrible today, when I order one, I anticipate that I'll be very disappointed with that, because my basic expectation is that it's going to be good, right? And that anticipated disappointment may therefore modify your overall value, subjective value of Pizza Parlour A in this instance, downwards to such an extent that you might go somewhere else, perhaps. So you can see that it's one option, Pizza Parlour A, but there's different possible outcomes, and your emotional reactions to the different possible outcomes from that one option can modify your overall subjective value of that particular option. That's disappointment theory. That was behavioural economics on a post-it number 12, wasn't it? Next one's 13, isn't it? Yeah. That was number 12. Now regret theory. Forget about disappointment theory. Now consider regret theory towards the bottom of this post-it here. You're thinking about ordering pizza now, but from two different possible options, two different pizza parlours. Pizza Parlour A and Pizza Parlour B. Now, from Pizza Parlour A, you know from experience that they're usually good, usually great, I've said here, but occasionally they're terrible. Right? Pizzas from Pizza Parlour B, in your experience, are always okay. They're never great, but they're never terrible. They're always somewhere in between, right? So you're considering pizza parlour A. You're strongly thinking about pizza parlour A here. But then you think, okay, if I go for A in this case, right, and I do get one of these occasionally terrible pizzas, I know that if I'd have gone for B, I would have got an okay pizza. I would have avoided that occasionally terrible pizza in this instance, right? So you're anticipating that if you do go for A and you did get the terrible pizza, that would be associated with a strong degree of anticipated regret, because by going for the different option, you could have got a better pizza, for sure, right? And that anticipated regret might therefore modify your overall value, subjective value, of pizza parlour A, of going for pizza parlour A, to such an extent that might steer you, possibly, if the anticipated regret is strong enough, it might steer you or prompt you to go for pizza parlour B instead. So you can see with anticipated regret, with regret theory, it's associated with the emotional reactions to the considerations of possible options across possible outcomes across different options. So disappointment theory, emotional reactions to different possible outcomes within the same option, right? Regret theory, modifications caused by anticipated feelings or emotional reactions to the possibility of different outcomes across different options. Disappointment theory, regret theory.